last module.
We're ready to do this? Well, hopefully you've enjoyed what you've seen so far. We've answered your questions and hopefully given you a real insight into the capabilities of the Windows Intune product, either in the cloud config or in the unified configuration with SCCM. So our goal now is to show you really what the end user experience is. In all of this, we've set the platforms up, we've set the software applications up, the policies, we've got the groups configured how we want them to be. So now the goal is to try and get us to a point where our end users are logging in with their devices, they're enrolling those devices, and then they're consuming the policies and the software for us. So this is going to be either a bang or a whimper because we're remote controlling different devices. We're using emulators, so sometimes they can be a little bit tetchy.
Well, we have fruit devices in here. We've got surfaces. We got all kinds of things. Yes.
So yep, they're all here, and we're going to see what we can get through to get them enrolled. We're definitely going to try the Windows Phone device and also the RT device here. So we'll see how we get on with that, and then we'll round up with a few questions at the end to clear out the rest of the queue and see that we've answered everything that you wanted answering, and then we will wrap for the day. So without further ado, let's switch back to the presentation and see where we are. So right now we're at the end user enrollment module 12 of the day. So let's jump on in and get rolling. So in this section, we're going to focus on the enrollment experience for these various mobile devices. I went into some detail about the deployment mechanisms for enrolling PCs. I may switch to the console as well, so you can see what it would look like on a Windows 8 device if you try and go through the end user experience through the company portal web page on a Windows 8 device as well. If we've got time, I'll try and get to that. For the EAS enrollment, we'll talk about what's required for that, but for the most part, we'll just leave it at that as we don't have a demo Exchange infrastructure set up. Okay, so focusing on the enrollment for Windows Phone. Now, what's important here is to understand that the Windows Phone platform itself was designed with management in place. So previously with Windows Phone 7, we could manage it through EAS, so we could apply policies and get inventory information off of it. But their platform didn't support an enterprise software deployment mechanism. The only way you could deploy apps was to actually unlock the device using the app developer process to enable you to then sideload an app on there if you were a developer of that app. Obviously, with us, we want to be able to deploy it across an organization through this BYOD experience. So we had to wait for Windows Phone 8 to enable us to do that, and that's exactly what we've got now. So built into the platform is this management capability, and we get to it through this settings configuration here. So built into every Windows Phone is the settings configuration, and when the user clicks on that, they can scroll down to the bottom of the screen and they'll get this company application or company apps option. When they click on that, it's going to launch a screen that basically becomes the interface to this enrollment process. And here they'll click the Add Account, and then that allows them to join the device through their data connection, whether it's wireless or 3G or 4G, and allow them to authenticate with the process. So here, Toby's providing his corporate credentials and a password. If auto-enrollment is set up, that was that DNS entry that I was talking about that you can configure that would allow the Windows Intune service to look up where it's enrolling. If you haven't got that entry in place, they'll also need this manage.microsoft.com URL that they'll enter in. So they'll first of all put their credentials in, and then the system will come back and say, couldn't discover those automatically. Please provide me with more information, and I'll show you that in a second. And it's this URL that you'll need. So once that's in place, you provide the URL, you get them to log on, and it can then discover the account and enroll the device. So in this point, what's happening is effectively that direct connection from the mobile platform to our service is being set up. The certificates are being exchanged. We now have a secured platform to allow us to manage the device. And they click Done, and that will automatically install the company app that you've uploaded into the service. Now, just to be aware here, it is possible if the user's not paying attention and they're just clicking around that they might deselect this option. So let me just highlight where I mean. So this option here is shown to the end users. And if they deselect that, that does actually cause a little bit of a problem for us, because we'll enroll the device and we can push the policies down and we can get the inventory information off of it, but they won't be able to access the company apps portal to be able to get to those apps. So at that point, you're kind of in a difficult position where you either have to manually get the ZAP file on there, which isn't particularly pleasant, or they have to unenroll the device and then re-enroll it, this time leaving this option on there. And once that's ticked, then the device will automatically download from the cloud the company portal app and they're good to go. Once that's in place, the settings are up and running. We've got a notification here that we've enrolled with this account. And that's it. That's all the users need to do. From this point onwards, the device is actually going to appear in our console and allow us to manage it. So with that, what I'm going to do is just switch out of this and then show you the admin console on this device, and then we'll switch over to my laptop and have a look at what it looks like through the Windows Phone emulator. Okay, so back on my admin console here, I'm still signed into my service, and I can drill down into my mobile devices and have a look at the ones that are enrolled via the direct management channel. And you can see here we've got a fairly rich list of the platforms that we're managing for different users. I can also drill down to the individual users themselves. So if I'm going to enroll as me, let's say in this account, I've already got 4 devices enrolled. If I double click on that, look at the devices that are enrolled here. I've got an iPad, I've got a Windows 8 PC, an iPhone configured, and my Windows Phone 8 device. So now what I'll do is let's switch over to my laptop over here. And you can see I've got the emulator running on my PC. So this, for all intents and purposes, is a Windows Phone PC. So as I scroll up here, I've got my settings in place on the Start menu. And scroll down again, right to the bottom here, we've got this Company Apps option. Select to add this account. And this is where I have to provide my credentials. So these are the credentials that I'm using to access the Windows Intune service. So it's going to be rich at Contoso CF on Microsoft.com. That's the demo environment we've been using throughout the day. So let me just log on there and sign in. Okay, so it's tried to discover and immediately recognize the fact that it doesn't have all the information it needs because I haven't got that DNS entry in place. So the credentials, it comes back and prompts me to add this URL. So it's manage.microsoft.com. Microsoft.com. Okay, so now if I click sign in, it goes to look for the credentials up on the web and is doing a lookup against my user credentials. So hopefully I typed my password correctly. Here we go. We found them and the account's been added. So at this point, this is the dangerous point. Just make sure users don't deselect this. I'm going to click done, and the enrollment has occurred. So our Contoso CF environment, we've enrolled into it, and this device is now registered with the service. There are just a couple of other bits and pieces here that the users may want to access. So for example, if I just pop up the tags here, you can see this is where I can delete the account if I wish to take it out manually on this device. The users can delete it this way, although I'd recommend that they use the company portal app in order to remove devices typically. But we can delete it here. We can sync. So if I click the sync button here, I'm going to force this device to go and check back with the console and report any data that's up there. And I can cancel just to come out of this. So that's our end user experience. Now, if I go back to the Start menu and scroll across, there's the company portal. So that's been downloaded automatically from the service as part of this enrollment process. We'll load the portal. Now, the first thing it's going to do, again, I'm loading the portal here, so I need to authenticate with the service to be able to access my applications because the device is enrolled and it's linked to me, but I still need to prove that I am who I say I am as a user. So it is going to prompt me to log on to the service at some point. It was all going far too smoothly, David. I've now got myself a nice blank white screen.
Well, that's handy, right?
The demo
power,
gods have deserted us.
The fun of emulation.
Let me try that one more time.
Yeah. It's
only just enrolled, so I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and see if it's.
We can switch. We can switch to
it.
another device and come back if it's still loading it up there.
That is cheating, though, isn't it? So,
well, come on now. This is how it goes with the live demos and the ad hocness going on.
It wouldn't be a complete demo if I didn't do this. So
that's right.
Let's switch back to my desktop here and have a look at the admin experience. So what I've done here is click back in here and refresh the screen, and my console is going to refresh with the latest information, and sure enough, I've now got 4 o'clock in the afternoon. No, 4 o'clock in the morning. We've got a new device that's just enrolled into the service. It's my Windows Phone 8 directly managed device that's reported in at 8:20 a.m.
While you're there,
quite interesting.
While you're there, we have a question that says, is there a way to effectively know what apps are taking up a lot of storage space on the device?
The only way we can do that on mobile devices is through that management screen that we were talking about here through storage usage. Mm-hmm. Here we are tracking the size of the apps that you're deploying, but we're not doing it on a per device basis. Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't be able to get that information out. And unfortunately, the information we're getting, certainly with this first wave, is somewhat limited, and we're trying to get it to a point where we can extend this with future releases as we go along and increase the capabilities through this portal. But for this first go round, we're a little bit limited in what we can do with the policy in terms of the information we can get off of the device. So if I was to go back to my console here, I can scroll down to all my devices. Actually, if I go back to me as the end user, look at the devices that are enrolled for me. You can see the information that I can get off of here. If I open it up, go into the hardware settings, I can get a limited amount of information back off this device. And this does vary depending on the vendor and the device type as to what information they surface up to us through here. But depending on the device, I can get storage information back here, but it's definitely not per app.
Yeah, well, and you will have, isn't there a compliance, though, with the deployment that you have there, which will state, the machines of the apps that you control, which ones those have been pushed out to, right?
Right, so we can go back to the managed software view here, and then take, for example, the Rounds app. I can have a look at that and see which users have actually installed the software, which ones have attempted to install it, the download requests that were handled for the device, and the size of the package itself here.
So we're getting around it. It's kind of. You're kind of not exactly, but
it's not where we want to be. But it's getting closer. It's definitely tracking the amount of information that we can surface right now. So if we switch back to my desktop, then what we have here is you can see that during that process, the first round of policies has been pushed down. So now for me to be able to enroll any further, I actually do need to set that password. So I'm going to set a password here. Let's turn on my keyboard.
You have to type it. You have to click it.
Oh, yes.
Because you're in the phone emulator. You are on the phone. You don't have a keyboard on that phone.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to use that mouse.
There we go. Click, click. Oh, no, it does not want to let me use it.
Maybe you should, if it's a super secret password, then maybe you should type it while we don't see it, and then with your mouse, and then we could come back to it.
Well, actually, the demo's complete at this point, because what we've proved is we've enrolled the device. It's appearing and reporting its data in. Yeah. The device itself has consumed policy, hereby proved by the fact that we now have to provide a password to the device. So I know that my system is consuming data at this point. So what I'll do is I'm going to switch back to the slides, and then we can move on to show the same experience, or the enrollment experience for Windows RT devices.
Okay.
So
Little bonus ad, one of the other things that I want to do is show the single sign-on because I was so slammed for time in the 50 minutes I had to show off all of those options. I never got to the client side, so I was going to show you a brief intro of what that looks like, single sign-on on a user device, and we can maybe do that a little bit.
Sure, that would be great. Okay, so looking at the enrollment process on Windows RT devices. So once again, RT was designed with management in place, albeit it's still a consumer device. So it's a basic level of management there. It's not a PC with that rich functionality that we're expecting. Although announced now is the Surface Pro devices, which are based on the PC architecture. So we'll be able to manage those as a fully managed client. Windows RT devices on the ARM infrastructure, they have this level of management built into it, but it's still fundamentally a consumer device for your users. So the process we need to go through here is we need to access this company apps enrollment process. We provide those credentials to authenticate to the service, and then Windows Intune, once that enrollment process is kicked off, we'll then collect the settings, apply the policies, do the inventory, and pull that information up. So what does that look like on the device? Well, it's actually a built-in setting. So the quickest and easiest way to get to it is actually through a search. So let me show you exactly what that looks like on the console. But what you do is type in company apps. It'll then prompt you to run this little setup wizard again. And then from that, we'll connect to the service, and it'll install the company portal directly on the device.
One other thing that, at least for me, that worked out, I know that I regularly go into system properties, right, where you can see Windows Update, the properties of the device. On the left-hand side there, you'll also see company apps on the device. Right. Another shortcut to the same thing. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Well, let's have a look and see what that looks like in action. So what I'm going to do now is I'll stay on this PC, but I'm going to attempt something without the aid of a safety net. So let's see if this is going to work. I've got down here a remote assistance session up with my RT device. So right here, I'm controlling the RT device with my finger, or I can control the RT device through the PC here with my mouse. So this is my RT device set up here, and at the moment it doesn't have any kind of enrollment in place. So if I go search for company apps, oh, helps if you bring up the right menu. That's the one I want in here. Search. Didn't want the one for my Windows 8 PC.
No. Company apps also, just to be clear, company apps will only come up if you've got an RT device. So I've just got on my Windows Pro device, and the company apps is not there. So
exactly, this is for the ARM platform. So this is instead of it being the fully featured agent installation process, this is specifically for a mobile device. We're treating it as a mobile device.
Yep.
Pro devices, they are PCs, therefore you'll install the agents and run them accordingly.
Absolutely.
So we have here the company apps user account control, so let's select that. Right, so now I'm running the enrollment process wizard on this RT device. So again, I'm going to provide my credentials. And my password. And click OK. And we immediately get that message that it's unable to recover the server. So I'll enter more information in here. And again, what we're looking for is that manage.microsoft.com URL. For some reason, I cannot type Microsoft today. Click OK.
It's the last module of the day. It's all right.
My fingers are tired and worn out. So here we're now connecting with the live service and going through the enrollment process. This is the connection between the Windows RT device itself and its management APIs with the Windows Intune service. So certificates are getting exchanged here, and the authentication's happening. So hopefully it's going to tick quite quickly along here. I still have my Wi-Fi connection in place, so that's a good sign. Mm-hmm. All right, so next option here is you've connected. So at this point, we're enrolled. The system is has this secure connection in place. The certificate's installed. The device will now consume policy and will also report its information back. However, we don't have our company portal app at the moment, so the next step is for them to install that company portal app. And as it's an RT device, you could go through the browser, but as soon as it detects that you're a Windows 8 or an RT device, when you try and get to the apps, it's going to push you to this link here. So let's go to the company store, and it's going to take us... Oh, that's interesting. I had this error earlier today as well.
Well, we can play Minesweeper instead, right?
I was installing that earlier today.
We might as well play Minesweeper while we're here, right? No.
So let me search in the store for the company app. You can actually search directly in here. You don't need to go through the company portal link. It is just a public application in the Windows Store.
Right.
So you can get to it directly without having to go through that link process.
And the other thing to point out, too, is that company portal app will run on even non-RT devices. So,
exactly.
And so, you know, when we maybe switch over to my device eventually, not yet, but we can show how there's the other entrance into that through the Intune portal to install the app.
Absolutely, yes. So it's a Windows 8 app, public app. So we can install it through here, and the standard install process will come in. So if I switch back to my Windows desktop, while that installation is going on in the background, what I'd like to do is, you see at the moment there is no sign of the company portal app appearing. It's installing in the background. But if I switch back to my console and refresh my view here, go into my directly managed devices. So we've got a Windows Phone device there, and that's my RT device. Oh, see the last updated. Oh no, it's here. Just reported, so let me see if it's associated with me. There we go. Our Windows RT device is now reporting in. So at 4:30, Rich RT has just joined the system, and will now start reporting, so I can start pulling the information off and having a look at things like the hardware configuration. So for example, here you can see the used and free space that we're using on the device, the information that's reported back about the OS, the unique ID that we have for it, and the manufacturer for the platform. So that's the management process for enrolling users for RT and for Windows Phone.
Okay.
So let me just switch back. And the next step is, what about the iOS and Android devices?
Yeah.
So back to the presentation. Now, for the iOS experience, me and iOS have had some troubled times in the demo world. So for this go around, I'm actually chickening out. I'm finally waving the white flag on the iOS platform. For anybody who was maybe at some of our other events over the years, we've had, it seems like the iOS devices know that I'm trying to set up their demos, and they'll work fine right up until the last 30 seconds beforehand. And usually it's an issue with the connectors on the devices themselves. They've got a little HDMI connector, and it's a bit flimsy, and the output's not necessarily as good as it should be.
So yeah, I've done the iOS demos as well, and there's a lot of different options. This right here is kind of your backup. So you get a Microsoft HD cam that's got a little mount on it. You've got a little tripod. You've got some software via USB to put it in there. So if all else fails,
You
got
can fall back to
over
that.
the head camera,
and we have
right?
done that in the past. In fact, at MMS last year, we had to do exactly that. Run on with the camera to show that it was actually working. It was just that the device itself wasn't projecting correctly. So,
well, and also, you know, the other thing, I mean, because we would give you an iOS demos as well, but we've done them. Right, it's not new. This was in Wave C. You can sideload iPad, you know, iPhone apps using Windows Intune. It's already been done. So the new stuff, the new hotness, right, is the RT and the Windows Phone stuff.
Absolutely.
So that's where we want to be at. All right. So we'll get back.
So but back to the slides. Let's show exactly what's going on here, because the enrollment process is a little bit convoluted for the end user here. You saw, if you've set up the auto enrollment feature, it really is just a one-screen deal. They provide their username and password, and it can discover the enrollment server, and it just happens. As long as they install the company portal, or leave the option selected for installing the company portal on Windows Phone, it's a very straightforward process. On iOS, there's a little bit more to it. So let me just take you through the steps here. So through the browser on the device itself, what they're going to do is they're going to go to m.manage.microsoft.com. That's the portal. They can actually go to portal.manage.microsoft.com, and the portal will detect that they're on an iOS device and reroute them to the mobile portal. So at that point, they have to log on to provide credentials. Then they'll get prompted to let them know that the device needs to be enrolled before it can be managed. So they have to click this install option in order to get this enrollment process in place. Now, at that point, control goes back to the iOS platform, and the management profile is prompted by the iOS platform to the end user. So they have to go through a process of accepting the management profile, which is effectively the certificate that we're using to manage the device through the Apple push notification service. So they will see your company name appearing against the push notification service certificate that you set up as part of those prerequisites. And the users must accept to install this policy, otherwise the device won't enroll. Once that's done, they click Done. They'll then be back in the browser, and now they have access to the web experience of the company portal. And as David said, this is very similar now to what we had in our previous release, where the users can now browse through the company portal, select Get Apps. They can get a limited amount of support information through the browser, and they can browse the app categories that they want to install and download the applications from the company portal website. So that's the experience through the browser on either an iPad device or an iPhone. It's any iOS device. So for EAS enrollment, so this would be your Android platform, or in fact any EAS supported platform. So in addition to enrolling for direct management, if you chose to use the mail client on your RT device to connect back to an EAS enabled infrastructure, you would provide this information as part of adding your Outlook account. So you provide your logon details, your server for the OA connectivity, domain information, logon information for that EAS environment. When you connect this up, the negotiation happens just as it has done before with the previous versions of either Windows Intune or with the connector through System Center as well. And the connection is made through the mail client. So the mail client on the box will then put in place any policies. Now, if you're directly managed, remember what I was saying about it being the most restrictive policy that's applying. So make sure that you've got your policies in sync and your EAS and direct managed policies match up. If they're not, the most restrictive is the one that's going to take effect. So that will get you through the process of enrolling the device. And then at that point, you actually get the best of both worlds in terms of the full functionality. So remember that additional capability that we were talking about of being able to delete the mailbox when you unenroll a device. So selecting wipe on an EAS enrolled device will remove that data for the mailbox off of even a Windows 8 PC that's using the mail client for EAS. And that's it. That's my section there for enrolling the Windows Phone and the Windows RT devices. So what I wanted to do now is to throw it back to you, David, to cover this single sign-on experience for the end users.
Let's do that. Let's do that. All right. Well, let's snap over to my demo machine here, and we'll take a look at what that's like. I am on a Windows 8 Pro device that I happen to have the Windows Intune client on, and this machine is joined to the domain. I'm using this user called Glenn John, and as you can see here, it's joined to the Contoso domain. When we go, there's a couple different things here. One, which is when we go down to the Intune icon, right, we have the option to go to the company portal. Well, now that we have an ADFS server set up inside the corporate network, we can go there automatically. Now, this is a warning because it is due to the certificate, the self-signed certificate that I created with the ADFS. When you look up here, right, you see the adfs.christianborder.com. That's that self-signed cert we have. Now, if you trusted this certificate and manually put that in, you would not get this warning at all. But nonetheless, if we click Continue, automatically here, right, we just signed in. We did not have to put in a password at all to sign into the Windows Intune portal. And there we could go to install a company app. So remember earlier, Richard showed a one way to go to get to the company app. This is another way where you kind of go around about to go to the Windows Store to install the application. We also have the ability, right, of course, to enroll other devices here. But the main thing there is just that single sign-on experience. The other thing is it applies to Office 365. When I go to Office 365, boom, right there. Logged in, did not have to type any credentials at all. If I go into Outlook, right, I haven't logged in yet, but effectively, right, I'm not typing any passwords, and this is really convenient. Now, in my particular case, because I have a demo environment, I did not set up the ADFS inbound. So this is a value add that you get via just the web browser when you're inside the corporate network with an ADFS machine. So even if you don't open up that firewall, you still have the SSO capabilities with that single ADFS server in your environment to make things a little more streamlined for your users with at least the web portals. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of the main thing I wanted to show off, just kind of that streamlined experience with the single sign-on for folks that didn't get it earlier. But do we have any other questions that we want to answer? Or
yeah, so I'm just going through some of the questions here. So Brian's mentioned a point here that as customers are getting more and more comfortable with their cloud, they really are looking to get the full functions of SCCM from the cloud-based service. And what I'd like to say is that is the stated goal of the team. So Windows Intune is developed by the same team that the System Center guys are. They're the same people, the same engineers, the same devs. So the goal is here to present a service that really gives you full features wherever it makes sense for those features to be. Now, at this point in the game, that makes the most sense for mobile devices with the BYOD scenario. But absolutely, as we move forward with the development of this product, the goal is to get more and more features for PCs and be able to host those directly from wherever it makes sense for them to be. As I say, the only caveat to that is it's not just a case of being comfortable with the cloud. It is also a case of having the infrastructure to be able to support an entirely cloud-based scenario. So I do expect that for at least a good few years to come, that it would make sense to have some infrastructure on-prem to support some of the capabilities. So let me give you an example that often comes up when I'm talking to customers in the form of OS deployment. We get asked to be able to support OS deployment, OSD, through the cloud. Sounds like a great idea, but as soon as you start looking at trying to deploy 20, 30 gigabytes worth of data for a single instance on a PC to do bare metal install, that's a big undertaking for an infrastructure to take on board. So for those kind of scenarios, it makes a lot more sense to have some kind of local cache in place that is used at land speeds to do the deployment. But we absolutely want to be able to merge these solutions to allow you to host whatever services you want in whatever environment makes sense to you. It's just that we have to go through this revision cycles. We have to, gradually unlock the features and still manage to support all the platforms that are coming out and updating as we're going along. So bear with us. It's absolutely where we want to go, but it's a good point to note and call out. Do we have any other questions?
There's one which I think kind of comes up in a number of different roundabout ways. There's one which is, can I have partners? Can I manage multiple Intune accounts? And I know we kind of mentioned that earlier. The answer is yes, you can. More specifically, though, how does that work? How do you do that? It's pretty easy. It's been around, for a while now in previous versions. All you really need to do is add a service administrator's email address, and then have that same email address be a service administrator in multiple accounts. And then when that administrator goes to log in, he'll get that multiple account, interface, or that multiple account portal there to log into. So that's the Intune side, right? And then there's, of course, the SCCM side of things, because there's kind of some of these questions around, hey, if we have partners and we have other people managing things, well, SCCM, at this time, there's only one Intune connector per role, right? So you can't have like 5 Intune subscriptions all in a single site, single role in an environment. But yeah, that would be some of the limitations that are there. But I think really what you'll probably start getting into is more of federation scenarios when you've got multiple forests and you want people to share different kinds of information. There's obviously a lot of options there and way too much to try and cover because there's so many variables that are in that mix. But hopefully that clears things up for folks.
Right, and we haven't gone into any detail here. We do have, as part of the partner training, some more details around the partner process for being able to manage multiple customers through our multi-account console. That's still there. That's still a capability that we introduced actually way back after the first beta. So that functionality is still there. We'll cover that in more detail in the partner-specific training that will be coming available in the next few weeks. So do keep an eye out for that. And I think that's pretty much it now. We're about there. It looks like the queues are pretty much up and answered. And thank you once again to everyone behind the scenes, to Paul, to Nathan, and everyone who's been answering questions for us. I guess we should also mention the guys in the studio here who've been diligently working behind the scenes to make sure we've stayed on air all day.
Yeah, most definitely. And thank you for attending and watching. If you're still here, way to hang in there, and we appreciate your feedback, your comments, and until next time, right?
Absolutely. Stick with Intune, and we've got a long way to go, and we are enjoying going there. It's great fun. So thank you for sticking with us all day, and I hope you've learned and enjoyed what we've been discussing.